Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you had a wonderful weekend and have recovered from your Super Bowl festivities. It was a good game, and appreciate you being on this morning because I think this is the number one work day where people don't show up. So thanks for being on the call today. So today it's kind of a different type of call. And what I want you to do is look at the world through the eyes of your clients. Now, why would that be an important skill to do? Why would it be important for you to be able to look at the world through the eyes of your clients? As advisors, what are we awesome at? Telling clients what they should think. But how good is it with baby boomers to tell them how they should think? Not exactly. It's not good. So I want you to be thinking that if you were in a group of your clients, how would you respond to this? How would you be thinking about this? So I'm going to you're going to be a retired senior or a near retired senior, and you are going to be in the audience as I go through this, okay? So I want you to respond as if you were in the audience. So I'm going to actually just kind of walk through a lot of things that clients should be thinking about, which I don't think they do. So again, you're in the client. As I ask these questions, you're not an advisor, you're a client. So how important, I mean, who knows, and some of this information you get out of role play, some of this information you already know. It's a conglomeration of a lot of different things from a lot of different coaching calls we've had, but it's all worthwhile remembering and reviewing. So here we go. So who knows the best performing stocks over the last 20 years? What is the best performing stocks of the last 20 years? Really over forever. What's the best performing stock ever? Let me get some answers. Nobody knows? Amazon, that's a good one. Tech, yep. Berkshire Hathaway, those are good questions. So a lot of people will say Amazon. In fact, one of you did say Amazon. Other people will say Apple. Apple is good. And Microsoft, there's another good one. Yeah, those are all good, educated guesses. And in fact, Amazon was up 2,300%. Apple was up 5,300%. So it ends up Apple was almost double what Amazon did. But guess which one was what stock was the best stock? What's 2,300%, 5,300% compared to 60,000% of Monster drinks? So that means $1,000 invested back in 2003 would be worth $600,000 today. So why is that important? Why is that important to know? Why is that important to know? Because unless we compare one thing to another, how do you know which thing is best? Because a lot of you thought that Apple and Amazon was terrific. But how does Apple and Amazon look as compared to Monster right now? Yeah. So if we don't have something to compare, in fact, in our lives, when we buy something, how do we buy? How do we buy cars? Just go out and say, point to the nearest car and buy it? Do we go to the nearest, if we're buying a TV, we just go to the nearest TV and buy it? How do we, everything in our lives now, we compare and shop. In fact, 80% now of shoppers compare prices online before they shop in stores. And what are the other 20% doing? That's what I'd like to know. Because do you know anybody now that doesn't go online to check prices? If you're in Target or Walmart, are people looking to compare prices on paper towels even, let alone something big ticket item like stocks, or like stocks, but like cars and such. So if I'm looking for a TV and I type into Google, best TV, would I just go to the first thing that comes up is a Samsung site? So is that where I'm going to go to pick out the best TV? Is the Samsung site? Is that where I would go? No. Why wouldn't I? Wouldn't. You're right. I wouldn't. Why wouldn't I go there? What are they going to say the best TV is? What? Samsung. Yeah. So if I'm looking for a best TV, where am I going to go? I'm going to go with something like this: the best TVs by CNET or by Tech Radar or by Ratings or PC Mags, because these are all what? What would we call these? First party or third party? That's right, Tom. Third party. Third party. That's where we're going to go. And why do we go to third party? Does CNET or PC Mag or Tech Radar, do they really care what TV I buy? No, they're right. Yeah, everybody's got it. Yeah, you're all right. It's they're non-biased. And even then, even when I go to, for example, CNET, are they saying one TV is the best? Or are they saying, hey, everything has advantages and everything has disadvantages? They're saying, yeah, one has, you know what, one's the best high end for TV for the money, best TV for the money, period. Best picture quality, second best TV for the money, best budget TV. So even even when they're comparing, they're not saying one is the best out there. They're saying everything has advantages and everything has disadvantages. So I mean, I guess I could just go to Best Buy instead of doing that and ask them what's the best TV. What's the matter with me just going to Best Buy and asking them what the best TV is? They may have bias. Do they have perks and deals with the manufacturers? And one will be they'll get more on another. Yeah. So I mean, I shop at Best Buy a lot. I trust Best Buy. But what do I do before I go to Best Buy? Just trust them without thinking about it, or I do my homework beforehand? Yeah, research, compare, check price. That's exactly right. So I trust them. I think they're a very trusted retailer. But I still, before I go there, I come in armed with what? Research. So how about for when I'm shopping for an investment? What should I do there? I mean, I trust my financial advisor. Should I give my financial advisor any money if I don't trust him? No, I shouldn't. But just like Best Buy, should I give Best Buy any of my money if I don't trust them? No, I shouldn't. But what did I do for Best Buy did I just take what Best Buy said at their word, or what did I do before I went into Best Buy? So the financial advisor, when they're recommending investments, what should I do before I follow through an investment an advisor recommends? I mean, do I know for sure, just like with Best Buy, I trust them, but do they always have my best interest in mind? Best Buy. Even though I trust them, no. How about our financial advisor? I trust them too, but do they always have my best interest in mind? Do I know that? See, who can finish this sentence for me? Who can finish this sentence for me? Trust, but what? Verify. Does anybody remember what president said that or made that saying? Reagan did, right? That's exactly right. Reagan did. So we shouldn't even think about working with an advisor unless we trust them. But even if we trust them, if we're really concerned about our interests being put first, what else should we do? What else should we do? I mean, can people even let's say that they're completely honest and they are putting our concerns first, our wherewithal first. Even if they did that, can people make mistakes? So why does it make sense when it comes to something as important to our health or our money? Why does it make sense to do a little bit of research on our own? Because we should trust people that we work with, but we got to verify. Because in the end, whose money really is it? It's ours. So should we, what happens when movie stars and rock stars and athletes totally trust their advisor? What happens to them? Too many times. Yeah, they can get scammed or lose it all. Yeah. So we say, hey, you shouldn't work with somebody unless you trust them. But even when you trust them, you gotta what? You gotta verify. Gotta verify. So just like when we shop for TVs, we don't just look at the Samsungs. We're going to look for a third party like Consumer Reports or whatever it may be. So when it comes to investments, many advisors, when it comes to investments, should we just take somebody's word for it, or should we go to the Vanguard site, or should we go to the Fidelity site to find out what they say? What are they going to tell us are the best investments? Yeah. So does anybody know a third party resource that we can go to for investments? Yeah, a lot of people are saying Morningstar, and that's exactly right. A lot of people go to Morningstar. And it's a third party. Do they really care what you invest in? Or are they just providing information? Yeah, they're just providing information. And boy, oh boy, do they provide information. Lots of it. Some people look at the star rating, but the star rating I don't give much thought because talking about past performance. And just because something's performed in the past, does that guarantee going forward? No. So I don't give much thought to that. But I do look at the details. And there's lots of details you can look at. You can look at the risk versus reward. You can look at how diversified it is. You can look at all sorts of different things in there. So how do you know when you're looking at all the information, though, if your investments are above average? Remember, we thought that Apple was great. We thought that Amazon was a great stock, and we found out how did they perform compared to other ones. Yeah, we got to compare. So there's what you call for example, how do you know if somebody's a really fast swimmer? Just by looking at them and say, wow, they seem to be a really fast swimmer. Maybe you could time them. That would be another way you could do it. But do I really know if their time is good? What if I find out that they swam in 32 seconds? What other piece of information do I need? Yes, check times versus other, David. Exactly right. So I need to compare the benchmark. If they're 12 years old, would I compare them then to Olympic swimmers to find out if they're a fast 12-year-old swimmer? No, I'm going to compare to people just like them. That's what you call benchmarking. Has anybody ever heard of benchmarking here? Super. So benchmarking is comparing like to like. How does it compare? Are you above or below average compared to people like you? Should we compare a 20-year-old's assets to a 65-year-old's assets and say, oh, geez, a 20-year-old's only saved $5,000. They're way below average. No, we compare a 20-year-old to what? A 20-year-old and a 65-year-old to a 65-year-old. Make sense? So let's talk about the power of benchmarking. So we'll dig a little bit deeper into the finer details that Morningstar gives us and see if our investments are average or above average, to see if they're doing what we want them to do. So obviously, you want to run your own investments through these tests. But because I don't know what kind of investments you have, I've chosen the 10 biggest or most popular actively managed funds in the entire industry. So why would I use the most popular funds in the industry if we would just use, for example? It means that the vast majority, these are the ones that most people use, the vast majority of people use. That way we can know how the investments that most people invest in fares compared to benchmarks. And when we zero in on these details, it obviously makes sense to have your own actual investments run through this, but does it make, as a second, at least as a group presentation, we're just going to use the 10 largest actively managed funds. Does that make sense to everybody? So first thing we're going to look at is zero in on the risk versus reward. And what this graph here is it's talking about the risk versus reward. So down here along the horizontal line, it says standard deviation. That's a fancy schmancy name for risk. Because you see here, what does it say right there? What kind of risk are we taking right here? Does anybody see that? What's it saying? Low. And then as we go down across here, we get to what? High. So that means as we go to the right, we're taking more or less risk? More. Now on the vertical column here, it's saying what kind of reward down here and what kind of reward up here. So as we go up, we're getting more higher and higher return. So more risk left to right and more return bottom to top. So what this is doing is measuring how much reward versus risk. Because if you take more risk, you expect more what? If you take more risk, you expect more what? And then reward, exactly right. And we said that in order to compare something, we're going to do it with what? When we're comparing a 12-year-old swimmer to an Olympic swimmer, we need some sort of what? Benchmark, right? Benchmark. So in this particular case, the square here is one of the benchmarks you could use. It's the S&P 500. And what is the S&P 500? It's the 500 largest stocks. So they're saying that basically these are the 500 largest stocks. So this is, when you listen to the news, they always say the S&P 500. Why do they say the S&P 500? Because the 500 largest stocks are doing something. What do they assume that the whole market is doing? Something similar or something crazy? Yeah, something very similar. Exactly right. Now, that's right here. So they're saying if with the S&P 500, the stock market takes, with large stocks, takes this much risk, it should get this much return. Does that make sense? Is anybody confused? Now, are there things that are more safe than stocks? Yes, CDs, savings bonds, those types of things. So what you see is the average rate of return here is 2.55%, but there are a lot of CDs paying 2.55% right now. But even if they are, see how down here, this line, like no risk, you're going to get a high return or a low return. Yeah. So there's going to be a pretend little dot down here, and we're going to draw a line from no risk through to the S&P 500, the 500 largest stocks. Now, are there also stocks more risky than the 500 biggest stocks, like the blue chip stocks? Are there stocks that are more risky than that? Yes, there are. And should you take more or less risk for that? More, right? So that's why we extend this line through from safe and no risk to blue chip stocks all the way up to more risky stocks. So as you take more risk, what's happening to this line? It's going up and up and up in return. Now, I call this, you see here, I call this line the no cost line, because guess how much it costs you to invest in the S&P 500? Yeah, I got a lot of people saying it. Zero. Exactly. It costs you nothing. How much does it cost you to invest in a CD? Nothing. And in fact, you can get these benchmark investments all the way up and down this line with less risk, more risk. You can buy them for essentially nothing. So we call that the no cost line. Now, why do I bring that up? Because let's say that your son or daughter is going to be renting their first apartment, and they come to you for some advice. See, their apartment comes with all the gym, the pool, and it also comes with 100 channels of cable TV for free. So they're all happy, but they call you about a month after they've lived there. Now they have 100 channels of cable for free included in the apartment, but the cable company calls them up and says, "Hey, we'd like to sell you a 40 channel cable for $50 a month." Now, what should they tell cable? When they get 100 channels for free, what should they tell cable TV when they want to sell them 40 channels, which is 60 channels less, and they want to charge them $50 for they're getting something for free now? What should they tell them? Yeah, and what would you, if your kid took advantage of that with the cable company, then what would you call them? What would you think about your parental skills and getting them ready for the world? Yeah. So when it comes to risk versus reward, you can get, on this blue line, you can get this much risk, this much return for how much cost again? No cost. Now these dots, these green, red, purple, blue dots, they correspond to the 10 funds that we talked about, the most popular funds in America. Now, for 8 here, it's saying, where would we want to be on this line? Do we want a higher return for the risk or a lower return for the risk? Oops. Higher return or lower return for the risk? Higher, that's right. So it's 8, higher or lower for the risk it's taking? Lower. How about 3 and 4? Or 1 and 3 and 4 and 6 and 5. 2 is at least what? Corresponds to what you can get for free. And 7 is even a little bit better. So these ones that are below the line are what? They correspond to the free cable TV with 100 channels, or do they correspond to being charged? Because these mutual funds, are you getting them for free, or are there fees and commissions involved? There's fees and commissions involved. And if you're paying fees and commissions, you expect more or less than what you get for free. You expect more. So how many out of these 10 funds, how many of them are giving you more than you could get for free? 1. That means 90% of people out there are getting what? More, they're paying for what? More or less. Yeah. And when you think about it, do you want a higher return or a less return for the risk you're taking? You want a higher. And they're getting what? 90% of the time, they're getting what? Lower. And with fees, do you want to pay the highest return possible, or do you want to pay the lowest return, or pay the lowest fee possible? Yeah, so you want the highest return with the lowest fees, but 90% of the people out there in the most popular mutual funds are getting what? The opposite. They're getting a low return for the higher fees. Do you think they know that? No, because if they knew that, they'd what? Would those be the most popular funds if they knew that? They would no longer be the most popular funds. So, these are the most popular funds. If people who were invested in these had known this, they wouldn't have done that. Now, when would the most then would these be the most popular funds for your money? No. So what does that tell you? Do you think most advisors have looked at a chart like this or haven't looked at it? Compared or not compared? Looked at the benchmarks or not looked at the benchmarks? And why do you think advisors don't show their clients charts like these? That's right, they're getting paid. They don't want to look bad. Well, I mean, some people said lazy, but do you think it's lazy? Because how has this ended up being? Want to pay more fees or less fees? Less fees. And instead you're paying what? More fees. So why do you think their advisors hadn't shown them these things? Because if the client paid less fees, who would that affect? The client. They're going to have more what? Money. It's also going to affect somebody else because the money's going into the client's pocket instead of whose pocket? Their advisors. Exactly right. So who can solve this puzzle? What does this say right now? What does this puzzle say? If not now, when? Exactly. If not now, when? So if you haven't looked or compared your investments on this risk-reward chart that's available by a first-party or a third-party resource? A third-party resource. If you haven't compared your investments to it, would it make sense to compare your investments to it? If not now, when would it make sense? Yeah. So that's risk-reward. Let's take a look at another thing out here. One of the other things that Morningstar will look at you, the third-party resource, is tenure. Does anybody, what's a tenure? What's tenure mean? It means how much experience somebody has running something, right? How much experience they have. So why would that be important? Now remember, is this your financial advisor or is this the guy that's running your actual money that your financial advisor picked? Is it your financial advisor or the guy that your financial advisor or gal that your financial advisor picked to actually manage the money day in, day out? Yes, the guy. That's right, the guy they picked. So who knows who this guy is? Who remembers this guy? Captain Sully, right. And he had a lot of experience. He was flew fighter jets from 73 to 80, including Vietnam War, flight training officer in the Air Force, mission commander in the Air Force. He was the equivalent of the Navy's Top Gun. He was an Airline Pilot Association safety chairman, 40 years and 20,000 hours of flying experience. So when he saved those people by landing the plane on the Hudson, did they say it because he was of his lightning quick athletic reflexes, or they said because he had so much experience? Experience. And see, when it comes to our money management, do we want somebody with a lot of experience or a little bit of experience? Lots of experience. Because, you know, every different, for example, with pilots, are there pilots out there with 30 or 40 years experience that fly planes? Are there doctors with 30 years experience? Are there teachers with 30 or 40 years experience? Are there CEOs with 30 or 40 years experience? There's everybody answer. So do you think there are money managers with 30 or 40 years experience? Yes. And why would we want to work with somebody with 30 or 40 years of experience? Because what? Have they seen inflation? Have they seen interest rates go up and down? Have they been through different presidents? Have they seen the market crashes? And how many market crashes? In the last 30 years, there's been 5 market crashes in the last 30 years. Have they seen good times and have they seen bad times? They've seen it all. So when we want our financial advisor, do we want them to pick a manager with no experience, or do we want them to pick an advisor with lots of experience? Some of you have seen it all. See, because one thorn of experience is worth a whole wilderness of warning. You can read and read and read about interest rates going up. You can read and read and read about market crashes. You can read and read and read about pandemics that are occurring in China right now. You can read and read and read about those, but until you've actually managed money during those things, what does reading help you? You can read and read and read about playing in a World Series game, but is that the same as being in a World Series game with the nerves, everything that's going on with that? Not even close. So let me just give you one example. If I was to ask you who is the one best investor ever, what name pops into your head? Yeah, Buffett. I mean, this guy. He purchased his first stock when he was 11 years old with money he earned from his family's grocery store. And he's been investing ever since for 78 years. Now, that's almost 8 entire decades of experience. And how much experience does he have? I mean, that's crazy. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? He's averaged over 19% a year for the last 50 years. 19. How many people can say that they've averaged 19% for 5 years, let alone 19% for 50 years? Now, what does it cost to invest with Warren Buffett? $4.95. And is that every single year, or is that just once? One time. So if you invest $10 million with them, $1 million with them, $100,000 with them, or $10,000, what does it cost? $4.95. And wouldn't we want a guy with that kind of experience? So when we look at the most popular managers out there, they could invest with Warren Buffett at $4.95 with 50 years plus of experience and with unbelievable returns. Or we could invest with like this one right here, one of the 10 most popular funds, with 5 years experience. Who would you rather have? 5 years experience or 50 years experience? Yeah. And here's what the cost is. 1.05%. So if you had $300,000, 1.505% is $3,150 one time or every single year? Every single year. And how much? So who would rather pay $4.95 one time for somebody with 50 years experience, or somebody with 90% less experience and pay, geez, what is that? Thousands of times more. $3,000 versus $4.95. So when it comes to manager experience, would you rather have more or less manager experience? Would you rather pay higher fees or lower fees for that? So this poor person in that fund, one of those most popular funds, which means few people in it or lots and lots. If it's one of the 10 most popular funds, a few people are in it or lots of people are in it? Yes. And they're paying what? They're getting more or less experience? Yeah, they're getting less experience, and they're paying a little more fees or a lot more fees for that. So I'm not saying, I mean, history's proven Warren Buffett is one of the best advisors out there, but nobody's perfect. Heck, he's 89 years old. So do we know how long he's going to be actively managing the fund? So I'm not recommending, say, go out and buy this. I'm just giving you as one example. It's not perfect. But I don't think you should just run out and buy his company. But what I'm guessing, it gets you thinking, doesn't it? Have you ever been shown that you even had that option by your financial advisor? So it should get you thinking. Experience. Do you know? Does anybody ever had their financial advisor not tell them how much experience they have? Because it doesn't really matter how much experience your financial advisor has if he's not the one managing the money. So how many of you know exactly how long the managers who are managing your funds have been doing it? Isn't experience an important thing? And the price you're paying for that experience, shouldn't that factor into your investment decision? Is that something you should know? Everybody answer. That's something you should know. I would think so. Yeah. So, if your advisors aren't telling you that, why aren't they telling you those things? Why didn't they tell you about Warren Buffett, where it would cost? How much would they get paid on a $4.95 investment? How much do they get paid when the cost is $3,000 every year? Yeah. So if not now, when should you know that? If not now, when should you know that? Third thing we're going to look at is diversification. Because they don't have all your eggs in one basket. Why? Yeah. So how do you measure diversification? Morningstar measures it with what's called correlation. If you think about it, it makes sense. It says here, correlation in finance and investment industry is a statistic that measures the degree to which two securities move in relation to each other. Correlations are used in advanced portfolio management, computed as a correlation coefficient, which is the value of fall between -1 and +1. That's all gobbledygook to say this. When somebody says something's correlated to something else, does that mean it acts the same or acts differently? The same, yes. So here are my two hands. If something's correlated, and causes my left hand to go up, what's going to happen to my right hand? It's going to go up, yeah. So they both go up or they both go down at the same time. Now, if they're oppositely correlated, if my left hand goes down, my right hand will do what? Go up, the inverse, right? So that means you want a negative correlation or a positive correlation if you want diversification. Positive means they both go up. Negative means one goes up, one goes down. So which one we want, positive or negative? Yeah, you want all one negative. So guess what the negative one is? Good diversification or bad diversification? If we want negative correlation, yeah, that's right. Good. You guys are awesome students. That means -1 is a good thing. A good thing. So let's take a look at how these funds compare. So the way that the Morningstar compares them is, do you remember back before GPS, back when we actually had paper maps? Down in the corner, they had these keys where it would say, how far is it from Cambridge to Hillsborough? And you could look and find out how long that was going to be. Do you remember those little keys there? That's how Morningstar does it. So this is a correlation matrix. Now, they make it super easy. Says the matrix is color-coded according to the degree of correlation. Dark blue represents high correlation. What do we say? High correlation is good or bad? We said high correlation. That's right, is bad, because that means they act the same. Light gray is moderate, gray is neutral. Light orange is moderate, negative. And we said negative is good or bad. In this case, negative is what? Good, exactly. So it says orange represents highly negative. So we want what color then? Orange, that's exactly right. And we don't want what color? Dark blue. Now, when we look at the 10, or I don't know, I don't know why we don't. Oh, I know why that happened. So when we look at the top mutual funds out there, how are they correlated? With dark blue. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? So if the vast majority of people in the United States are invested in these things, and they're invested in a whole bunch of different funds, they think they're diversified, but instead they're what? They think, I have 10 funds, so that means I'm protected. Are they protected? No. And why is this important? Why is it important to know if all your investments are going to go up or down together? Because are there times when all the stocks, whether they're the big stocks, small stocks, value stocks, emerging market stocks, European stocks, real estate, is there a time when they all go down together? So did it matter if you have all these different funds? No, and here's why that's important. Because in retirement, did you save up to die rich, or are you going to spend some of that retirement dollars? You're going to spend. And here's the problem with that. See, and this is called the sequence of return risk, which means when you're pulling money out, the rates of return make a big difference. So if the red line shows a withdrawal plan that started off with 3 years of negative returns in a row, and if we had in the last 20 years, have we had times when we've had 3 years in a row the market go down? Yes, exactly. The blue line represents the withdrawal plan with negative years at the end. See, they both have the same average rate of return. The average rate of return for both of them are 6.6. But when they get the negatives, has a different ending here. So they both start with 250, If you get the negative at the beginning, what happens to your money? They both average 6.6%. But if you get some negative returns at the beginning, what will happen to their money? They run out. Now, if things go perfectly, you could end up with a lot more than 250. Do we know which one we're going to be in? When will we find out which line we're going to be in, the red, the blue, or somewhere in between? When do we find out? Beforehand or when it's too late? Yeah, when it's too late. So in order to diversify, what other types of investments other than stocks can we have in our retirement accounts? So stocks are our growth. What do we use for safety? Bonds, Nick. That's right, bonds. Guys, you're acting as, out of role play here, you're acting as the people in the audience. How many of the people in the audience are going to say FIAs when I ask them what they put into their safe money? What's everybody going to say when I say, so stocks are for growth, where do you put your safe money? What's everybody going to say? That's right, they're going to say bonds. That's right, bonds. So what about bonds? Well, what happens when both stocks and bonds go down together? This is a 20-year treasury. This is the S&P 500. What are both of these doing at the same time? Going down. Yeah. See, sometimes stocks and bonds act the same. Sometimes they don't. So here's what it's saying. This blue here, this is when they're saying it's acting the same. The black is when they're acting the opposite. And when are we going to find out whether they're acting the same or the opposite? Before or after the, that's right, after the fact. But right now, where are we at? Right now, they're currently acting what? The same. Because if you think about it, there's been a lot of push by Washington to keep interest rates low because they want stocks to do what? To go up. And interest rates staying low also keeps bonds up. But when interest rates start to go up, stocks are going to go down, and guess what else is going to go down? Bonds. So how will that affect you? And that means both your stocks and your bonds will be going down at the same what? Same time. That means you're going to be the happy face here or the sad face here if you're pulling money out. The sad face. And it gets even worse, folks, because if you're in mutual funds, if you don't actually hold the individual bond, but you're in bond mutual funds, do you actually own the bonds or does the mutual fund own the bonds? The mutual fund does, right? So that means you have no maturity. Your maturity is not controlled by you. And if bonds start to go down, are there people that will pull their money out if bonds go down 5%? That will panic and pull. And then are there people that when those people pull money out, what does the mutual fund manager have to do? Say, I'm not going to give you the money, or they have to give them the money? They have to sell, which means they lock in those losses. And when they sell and lock in those losses, and all the bond funds are doing at the same time, bonds go down even what? If they're all start to sell bonds, what's going to happen to them? They go down more. And there were some people that said, I'm not going to get out when it goes down 5, but I'm going to get out when it goes down 10. Are there some people like that? Yes. And can the mutual fund manager refuse to give them their money? No. So now we've locked in a whole bunch of losses. And if you're smart enough to hold on, you start to wonder whether you were smart enough to hold on. Because who got punished? The smart people that held on, or the silly people who panicked and left? Who got it? Who ended up holding the bag? The smart people. And will they ever get those returns back? If the mutual fund manager sold them at losses, will they ever get those losses back? And when we go from 5 to 7 to 10% decrease to 11 to 12, people are selling, and that causes bonds to go what? When people are selling? Down, down, down. You're now in a what? Death spiral. You're in a death spiral. So where will you put your money, or where will you pull your money from if both the stocks and bonds go down and you're not diversified? Where will you put your money? So how important is it to know how diversified you are? And do you want more diversification or less? Do you want more fees or less? You want the most diversification possible for the least amount of fees possible. You want the least, you don't want the least amount of diversification for high fees. But if you're paying $3,000 a year for non-diversification, good thing or bad thing? So how important is it for you to know all these things? The diversification, the risk reward, the tenure. How important is it to know all these things? Really important. Really important. So some of you will figure out by looking at these three things, some of you are going to figure out that you're paying more and getting less than what you thought. You people will become my clients. Some of you will figure out that, you know what, your investments need improvement, and you'll either take care of it yourself or tell your current broker to fix it. Some of you will have excellent portfolios, and we'll shake hands and you go your merry way. So where are you? If you saved hard and you saved and scrimped to intelligently and saved your retirement portfolio, how important is it to know at least these three things that we talked about? And there's many more things that Morningstar showed you. We just basically touched on three of them. Would you say it's, don't bother, it's a bad concept? Would you say two, that maybe on a scale of 1 to 5, would you say, maybe some promise, but I'll worry about that later? Are you like, well, I guess that's some advantages, disadvantages? Or you're saying, you know what, maybe just those three things aren't everything, but I guess it would make sense to spend some time doing this. Or are you saying, you know what, not only do I want to know those three things, I want to know every single thing that I can benchmark so I can get the absolute best thing out there for my retirement dollars. So where are you? A 1, I don't really care, or 5, I'm going to take control of my investments. Sure, I trust my advisor, but trust and verify. I need to verify where my benchmark is. Am I above or below? Am I paying more for those things and getting less, or am I getting a lot more and paying less? Which one of those? Are you a 1 or a 5? If you're a 5, then you're saying, I'm in. I want to know more about my investments. I want to compare my investments. If that's the way I do my cars, that's the way I do my TVs. I need to be doing that for the most important thing in my life besides my health. The most important thing about in my life, which is my investments. How many of you are number 5s? Everybody do that. Everybody. I want everybody to answer that. As a client, how many people would say 5s? Everybody on the call right now. I need to see all 5s. Awesome. Good. So guys, do you see that now we're done with this, but do you see how when you lay out and ask questions to people throughout, how they're going to tell you that what we have to offer is the best way to approach things? How many people really, truly have gone through, what's the only thing people will compare? When people are comparing their investments, what's the only thing they compare? Returns, that's right. And what are comparison returns worth? Because the thing that performed best last year has a what % chance of being in the bottom quarter the next year? A really high, 80% or more. So if you're looking at what performed the best last year, you got an 80% chance of being in the bottom quarter the next year. And because in order to be the highest performing investments this year, what did you have to do? Take chances, right? Take chances. So is there more to buying a car than just reliability? Is there more to buying a car than just gas mileage? Is there more to than safety, than just safety? Is there more to buying a car? Is there lots of things in order to compare how we buy a car, how we buy a TV? And are there lots of things to compare how we buy investments? And the thing is, how many investment advisors are showing clients these things? I would tell you, Jeff, how many have we found out of 60,000 tapes? How many times have we heard a client say, "Oh yeah, my advisor did show me these things"?
Yeah, we've never heard that.
60,000 times and it's 0. So you guys have a tool that is so powerful in your hands. The more people you get in front of when you use this tool, what's going to happen if you use this tool properly? So I'm not saying use a screwdriver to pound in a nail. This is a hammer. This is a sledgehammer that, when used properly, will get 100% of people to leave their current advisor. The only way that's going to happen is if you are what? Hoping for people to come walking through your doors, or getting in front of people. Getting in front of people. Make sense? Cool. So was this a worthwhile endeavor to have you sit in a client's shoes and from their point of view and look at this stuff? Did you all get some good ideas on what to use on how to use them? Awesome. Super. Well, again, I appreciate you being here on Super Bowl Aftermath Monday, and for being here. And I hope you all have a terrific rest of the week, and we'll talk to you all next Monday. Thanks, everybody.